You might have already heard about Flagstaff, Arizona, but if you haven't, it's okay. You only have to be in the Phoenix metro area for a very short period of time before someone is going to tell you all about Flagstaff, or Flag as we often call it. Now, Flagstaff is one of our cities up north. It's about 2.5 hours depending on where you are in the valley, and it looks drastically different than the Phoenix metro area because everything here is essentially, for the most part, it's fairly flat unless you're in the outskirts of the Phoenix metro area. Then you're going to get a little bit of some elevation, but Flagstaff, that city sits at 7,000 feet elevation, making it one of the highest cities in the US, and you can tell the difference immediately. As a matter of fact, when we first went up there, it was so surreal. I felt like if I had closed my eyes and spun around 2 times and opened them again, I would have been in Eugene, Oregon. It literally looked that similar to me, from the Coconino Forest, which is just tons of fir trees, to the more Northwest style housing that you'll see up there, and very little, if any, of that Southwest architectural style that we see down here in the valley. And with that elevation, of course, comes different weather. You truly have 4 different seasons in Flagstaff. We actually own a second home up there, and what it was for us is all 3 of our kids went to NAU. Northern Arizona University is a huge component for the city of Flagstaff. And here in the valley, if your kids attend Arizona high school all 4 years and they get a certain GPA or higher, they often qualify for the Lumberjack Scholarship, which is essentially free tuition to NAU, and it's a huge, huge perk for us here in Arizona. So all 3 of our kids, we were fortunate enough, they qualified for it, and the parents or the students are responsible for your room and board. Well, after we sent our first one up there and paid the room and board, that's still pretty pricey. And because we had 3 kids in 4 years, they were all going to be in college relatively, one on top of the other. So it just made more sense for us to purchase a home. But the hard part about buying in Flagstaff is there is very minimal inventory, and the home prices are significantly higher. It's much more expensive for the cost of living and housing in Flagstaff. Our thought process in purchasing this home was not only would our kids have a place to stay throughout college for, year after year, but then we could go up and enjoy it in the summers and break away from the heat. And it was a great idea, except for the part at that time, this was just before COVID, so 2019. Our budget was, we didn't want to spend more than $350,000. Well, guess what? In the market up there, when we went to look, we had 5 houses to look at in the entire city of Flagstaff. 5 houses. 2 of them were teardowns, complete and total teardowns. They were scary, like you couldn't even walk across the floor without watching where you would actually just fall through. And then the other 3 were on really steep hills. They were condos, there was no parking, they were multi-floor condos, which also wasn't something we were super excited about because remember, we're wanting to stay there during the breaks and on summer, and we don't want to do all the stairs. So one of the things you'll see in Flagstaff with the housing is anything that's closer to campus, because campus at NAU is really a big nucleus of the city and one of the largest employers. So anything close to campus, as you can imagine, being a college town, is very, very expensive. And those homes tend to be significantly older, like 100-year-old homes, and have the 100-year-old wiring and flooring and everything else that comes with an older home. So not only are you paying sometimes double, triple, what you think the home should be worth if you're purchasing anywhere near campus, we're talking big, big bucks to renovate that home and really get it, out of the frat house look and more into what you might enjoy living in. So you're spending potentially tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring that thing either up to code or to no longer look like a frat house or a sorority, depending on if you're thinking this is a home you want to occupy yourself and not have set up as a multiple, rental situation with different roommates and that kind of thing, which is very popular in Flagstaff because of how expensive it is. They have so many students there that I think it was our second kiddo when he started, certain grade levels were not allowed to stay in the dorms. They're forced to stay off campus And so that just puts a huge surge on the housing needs in and around Flagstaff. So remember, we had been looking for over a year, and when we went up, there was those 5 houses. None of them were a fit for us whatsoever, and there was a huge jump in price that you had to go to really find kind of what we were looking, which was at least a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and ideally something with a garage, because guess what? It snows and it gets cold, and they have all kinds of weather all year long. Well, we got lucky. We happened to stumble across a new build community over on the west side of town, just west side of campus. They were completely built out, but we got to chatting with the sales gal real quick, and lo and behold, somebody that morning had canceled on their contract. I mean, we got really lucky. So we went over and checked it out, put our money down. Craziest thing, we paid like $330 for this 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage townhome with no yard. And to give you an idea of the value of this home, our neighbor that we share a shared driveway with, they bought the home at the exact same time as us. These are spec homes, so we've got tile throughout the main area. We've got granite in the kitchen, very tall ceilings. There was an option to put on AC or not. If you're in the valley, pretty much all your houses are going to have AC. However, up in Flagstaff, a lot of places don't. We opted to add the AC to our house. So this fairly new house, 5-6 years old, not super big. We're talking it's like just over 1,500 square feet. No yard, remember, no yard. And did I mention it backs up to I-40? Now it's way taller than the house, so it's not really a concern in your sight line or anything like that. There's lots of pine trees, still beautiful. But $330 after COVID and today, that home is easily worth north of $500,000. But here's the real kicker. Our neighbor who had bought the adjoining, the house with the shared driveway, they decided to rent theirs out from day one. They bought it as an investment property. They rent it for $3,000 a month. Flagstaff is known for being an outdoor paradise. And remember, not only is it seasonal, you have the college vibe, but I think our house is 20 minutes from the Snow Bowl. So if your kid enjoys snowboarding or skiing more than they do going to class, that can be a problem. I mean, we've been up there and had snow in May, which is just kind of crazy. But one of my favorite parts is in the summer. It's very common that it'll be a little bit warm, early in the day. So it might get up to about, high 80s, 90s. But remember, the air is so thin. It's so thin up there that we do have people that have issues going to Flagstaff if they have any altitude problems. There's an altitude sickness that you can get. You might not even know you have it until you're up in Flagstaff. In the summers, it's just so nice. It's beautiful. We go walking at Buffalo Park, which is stunning. It is surrounded by these just gorgeous mountains, and it's wild and scrub and deer and walking paths, and there is still cactus, believe it or not. It looks like it's just wild grasslands, but you've got to be really careful and stay on the paths if you're walking or running or out with your dogs, because there is cactus interspersed everywhere in there. But it's just so enjoyable, and you really feel like you are just free and part of nature. But then in the afternoons in the summer, you almost always get just this gentle rain that just sprinkles down for 20 minutes, 40 minutes, just about every afternoon in the summer. It's just so pleasant and a nice change of pace from being down in the valley. A lot of Flagstaff is fairly easy to get around. They have a great busing system, which is pretty common when you have, a lot of students, a college town, but then the kids have their e-bikes. I know our son rides his bike to school, and we're maybe 15 minutes from him for school on his bike, which saves him a ton, because if you're a student and you choose to have your vehicle up there, you've got to obtain a parking pass from NAU, and they're kind of pricey. I believe they're like $600 for a semester. You can split them with one other student, but neither can be on campus at the same time. So there's a lot of coordination that can go into that. If I recall correctly, when I went to our first 2 kids' orientations, very few students actually have vehicles in Flagstaff because it's just kind of a pain to figure out the parking situation all the time. And then Flag's also known for their Lowell Observatory, which is kind of cool. Yep, that's the same observatory that found Pluto. But one of the things that caught me off guard, and you have to, if you're not great with nighttime driving, you really want to watch what you're doing in Flagstaff, because they have a city-wide ordinance about their lights, which is kind of interesting because you've got students everywhere walking and biking and dogs. This is very much, Flagstaff is very, very much a dog city. People love their dogs. So the reason I mention the lights is all the light in the entire city are like on super mega dimmer mode, and there's very specific rules of what you can even do in your own yard or at your own home in regards to lights. Flagstaff is very proud of the fact that they are a low light community. So if driving at night's tough, definitely not the place you want to be out after hours. And as a side note, if you're coming up from the Phoenix metro area, we highly, highly encourage that you leave and plan to be in Flagstaff by dusk. And so probably by like 5 o'clock. And the reason is, as you're driving up, there is a lot of areas with next to no cell service. Remember, you're going up and up and up, tons of elevation, wild curves and animals and problems. So very spotty cell service, heavy use on your vehicle. You want to make sure you have some emergency supplies. Weather often can come in very quickly. I have driven up to Flagstaff in nearly a blinding blizzard. It's scarier to not get out because there are a lot of semi trucks on the road on the way up there with you. So that's something to keep in mind, as well as the animals. So one of the things we hear about all the time is right about dusk, the elk and the deer, they just come leaping out, across that road. And trust me, when it's the car versus the elk or the car versus the deer, you're not winning. It's almost always a total loss of your vehicle, and it's scary as heck. So you have a better chance of avoiding that potential scenario if you head up and be in Flagstaff before dusk. And then of course, if you are going to Flagstaff, you've got to keep on going just a little bit further and see the Grand Canyon, which that Lowell Observatory is the entrance to the Grand Canyon. But talk about breathtaking. Now I will say, whether you're going in the winter or you're going in the summer, take a warm jacket or a sweatshirt or something, because it always catches people off guard how cold the Grand Canyon is. And if you're going up for the Polar Express in the winter, which I've done with my daughter, it's so fun, but it is freezing. Make sure you have gloves or mittens, and even, maybe the little things that you can break to activate in your pocket to keep your hands warm, because it's really, really cold. And then be very conscientious when you're doing selfies or pictures. You would be shocked at how many people die every year at the Grand Canyon taking a selfie. If you're looking to purchase in Flagstaff and thinking you'll want to Airbnb in addition to using the home yourself, you really, really have to watch the CCNRs. The folks of Flagstaff, they don't love Airbnbs. They do not love short-term rentals. And so many of the neighborhoods are making it very prohibitive to purchase a home and do short-term rentals. When we go up to Flagstaff in the summer, I love Lake Mary. Now it's very close to our home. Again, it's maybe 10 minutes away, and they've got some sandy beach area. There's a dock that you can put a boat in. We personally enjoy kayaking when we're there at Lake Mary. Flagstaff's population of about 76,000 matches its mountain-like feel. To us, it's magical, it's a fun getaway, but it feels busier when you're there. And I think that's just simply because there's so many students and tourists, and you can't go up to Flagstaff without every single week there being some sort of farmer's market or a craft gathering or many, many different events. It's just a really popular retreat location for so many activities. Downtown has a super fun little vibe. There are fantastic restaurants, lots of restaurants and places to eat and breweries, and just a lot of awesome walkability in that downtown location. As I mentioned, it is expensive to buy in Flagstaff. Heck, it's expensive to rent in Flagstaff. And yet I get asked all the time about people wanting to either relocate up to Flagstaff, change in life, change in pace, or more commonly to purchase a second home or a kiddie condo setup, kind of like what we did for our kiddos. And I have to tell them that while I own a home in Flagstaff, I enjoy visiting all the time in Flagstaff, I'm going to refer them to another agent. And here's the crazy part. I am licensed to be able to sell you a home in Flagstaff or list your home in Flagstaff. But it's a little bit different setup. And here's what I mean by that. The agents or the folks, up in Flagstaff, they don't love us Valley Realtors. As a matter of fact, they have a whole different MLS system. They have a different lockbox system. They just don't enjoy working with us, and probably for good reason. They have their own little setup up there, and we down here, there's a whole lot of us, and they don't love that we don't know the inner workings of their systems. So what I have found in my experience is if I try to handle that transaction knowing that information, I am not giving my clients the best possible resources and service that they could absolutely get in purchasing a home. And this is critical because remember, the inventory is very, very low in Flagstaff. It is challenging to find a home that will fit your needs. And so you want a local up there, 100%. And a lot of times they know about upcoming listings or activities that are going to happen before it's ever going to hit the MLS. We have successfully referred clients up there that were able to purchase a home day zero before anybody else in the rest of the MLS world knew about it. And so it is in your best interest for me to just pass you on to someone that can really take care of your needs and give you the best shot at getting a home that you'll love at a price that will work for you. If you are looking to explore the Flagstaff, Prescott, Show Low, Strawberry, Pine Top, there's so many awesome cities up north, still reach out to me. We have intentionally set up connections and resources for you in each of those cities to make sure you get the inside skinny, the inside scoop, and the absolute best representation so that they can find you the home that you love up north.